Currently, I'm 25 years old, and I still live with my parents.
I will say this, the social stigma of a male still living with their parents is that you weren't able to get out there and fend for yourself and make yourself, a life. All right, y'all, before we get started on this one, I gotta know down in the comments. I gotta know. How do you feel about living with your parents after you become an adult? That's what today's video is about. We're gonna hear from this guy I thought was older. I thought he looked 40. I'm 26 and he says he's 25. So let me know down in the comments what you think about living with your parents, or maybe you are still living with your parents. All right, listen, cool trick, but don't smoke. Okay, don't fucking smoke. I don't care what your excuse is. Don't smoke cigarettes. Stop. Just give it up.
I want to talk about living with your parents. Currently, I'm 25 years old, and I still live with my parents.
See, now there's no way. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop it already, but there's no way you're 25. I mean, if this is what the average 25-year-old is looking like, then I'm fucking doomed. I'm doomed. By the time I hit 30, I'm gonna have nothing up here.
Obviously I still pay for stuff. I pay for my car insurance and cell phone bill, and I buy my own food and all that shit. But it's not the point. I guess I just feel like I should have accomplished more by now.
See, this is what I mean. It should sort of be like this, where if you can slowly adjust to take on more responsibility, meaning getting a job, buying your own stuff, paying for a car, a vehicle, whatever it is, if you're able to do that, but the other bills are already taken care of by your parents, then I can't not tell somebody to use that system, right? Mathematically, it would be dumb for you to just go out in the world and try to make something of yourself, or go out and have a job when you actually have a support system. Maybe you don't like the rules that they're placing on you. Maybe you don't like what they tell you. Personally, I moved out at 21, but it was just me and my mom, and I was trying to help her. And I sort of realized we were having a toxic relationship when it came to me helping her, but her not wanting me to leave, because I was her last kid. So it was a very difficult transition, but I had to make that transition. I had to go through some strife on my own to actually learn how to, build my own life.
I don't know, I guess it's kind of deterring to, seek out a relationship with people, because when you try and explain, you're like, oh yeah, I still live with my parents, it doesn't sound like you have your life figured out. And I know that's a lot of people, a lot of people live with their parents, but it just seems it shouldn't be as degrading or as humiliating as it seems. I know I'm not the only one in this position.
I will say this, the social stigma of a male still living with their parents is that you weren't able to get out there and fend for yourself and make yourself, a life. A lot of times when you see girls still in the house, we're not far removed from marriages basically being arranged, where a guy comes and finds his wife from a household, like she's living with her parents, and he comes and picks her up and takes her in the carriage, and they move out into the country and have a farm or whatever. So yeah, if you're a girl, there's not nearly as much stigma as you staying in the house. But it does seem in the West that a lot of women, now that they are able to work and go out there and do for themselves, they want to leave sooner. And that's because they don't want the restrictions put on them when they're living in the house, because a lot of women mature faster, so they want to get to the relationship faster. They want to start a family faster. They want to start a career faster. Being raised by single mothers, and if they're watching their mother do it, they have a direct example of a female working and having her own family. So they can just go out there and do it themselves. For guys without a father, what it ends up happening is you don't really have that ambition, because you didn't really see a positive male role model do it themselves. So you don't really have that easy transition. You don't have the male in the house to tell you, get out there and go do it.
Right. But it's just you're so fucking stuck, because even if I was making double what I am, I wouldn't be able to afford it. unless I had a roommate, which I don't want, you know. So you're basically stuck in this position of forever living with your parents, you know, and I don't see a way out, you know. As much as I'd like to have my own place and just be alone, it just, shit's expensive.
And this is something I do hear about. It's like economically, it's hard to go out and buy your own house, or it's hard to get your own apartment and maintain that, especially if you have vices. A lot of people don't actually think about that. If you have some sort of vice that's controlling you, whether it be like smoking, drinking, or whatever, and it's like hindering your ability to pursue something greater and enjoy life, and make more money, honestly, then those things will drag you down, and you won't even count them. You'd be like, well, damn, I work all day. I should at least be able to smoke a cigarette. I should be able to at least have a beer. I should be able to at least eat this food. I should be able to at least go out and hang out with friends and all this stuff. And yeah, we probably should have a system where we're able to at least have some sort of like relaxing time during the week. But the truth is that there are sacrifices currently that have to be made if you want to make it. Save as much money as possible. Don't go out. Don't spend figure out where you cannot spend money, and then use that money to get your own place, and then build up from there. Because that initial freedom, it's nice, but it's also scary because now everything is in your control when you get out there. Literally everything is in your control. I'm not going to say it's bad that you would still be living with your parents, but if you think it's bad and you think it's hindering your growth, then you got to find a way to get out.
And I don't get it. You know, I hear my dad talk all the time about how things are the same as they are now as they were back then because he had to have a roommate, right? But my grandpa worked at the same job that I'm currently working at, and he was a manager there. And he supported his wife and 2 kids off his income alone, and he bought a house. I can't fucking do that. I can't support myself with the money that I make. So how can you even say that it's the same?
So I completely understand what he's saying. And I'm going to try to take the other side of this because I would agree with him that it is difficult, okay? It's not the same as it was when your grandfather was doing shit, all right? That's not what it's like anymore. But here's a couple of factors. You said you didn't want a roommate. So already there, you don't want to live with somebody else. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to get something going. But if you said your grandfather was working, he worked the manager job, so he was making more money than you. His wife probably brought in some sort of income. Back then, you could get loans for houses a lot easier, okay? The interest rates were not as high. As far as him making enough money, there wasn't as many people working. We also had unions and stuff where people would literally go on strike to get higher pay. We don't really do that anymore. We have this minimum wage where it's like that's all they have to pay you. And jobs are just ranking and they're seeing how much you want to make based on the job. So it's like if you're saying, oh, here's minimum wage, $7.25 or something. But hearing that a job makes $15 an hour, you're like, wow, that's literally double the minimum wage. I should be able to do something. Well, the truth is, if there was no minimum wage, we wouldn't be ranking the jobs based on that minimum wage. The jobs would be ranked based on the difficulty and the need for workers. So then you would have wages that lined up properly for living wages with the people. That's how it would go down. Because people would just literally refuse to do the job. Because no one's going to do it for less if they can't afford to live. So in return, the businesses would have to pay you more to do the job, especially if it was specialty work. Now, I don't want to chastise anybody because I know a lot of people in the comments are probably going to say that they're in the same situation. But the truth is that you have to make sacrifices. And if you don't want to, then you probably shouldn't complain about still living with your parents. On the other end of that, though, I will say the system is bad and it should be improved.
You know, the minimum wage or jobs, people saying that, oh, that job's not necessary. Every job is necessary in conjunction with every other job. If it weren't for me selling your gas, you wouldn't be going to work either. Fucking idiot. If it weren't for those people fucking flipping your burgers at McDonald's, your fat ass wouldn't be fucking sitting in line buying 4 of them, you know? You can't even say that their job isn't important and they shouldn't have a livable wage because that's what they choose to do with their life. You know, that just has never made any fucking sense to me. And the only thing that's in my mind, what can you do? What can you do? Literally nothing. What, are you gonna single-handedly lower the rent? Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Working and flipping burgers and working at a gas station can be a livable wage. There just has to be sacrifices made. Nobody wants to work a whole bunch of hours. I agree that pay should be lined up with like living standards, right? As the standards improve, maybe we should pay people a little bit more. Maybe people up higher should make a little bit less just so that the people down low can make a little bit more. They're going to be the consumers anyways. But for the most part, people don't want you to get rich. They don't want you to make it. They don't want you to break out of the system and make a life for yourself, right? So my advice would be to use that skill of hard working and working in a business, transfer that into something that you can do that will make you money, that is specialty. You know, maybe you do art, maybe you do hair, nails, whatever it is, right? Transfer that into those skills and then keep your job, but put in a little bit of effort to that thing that you want to do and build it over time and make it happen. Make it your full-time thing. That's the way to do it. And then that way, you know, we'll always have those consumer jobs, people flipping your burgers and stuff. It'll just be young people who are trying to build themselves up for whatever work they want to do later on in life. Stack your bread, stack your capital. And then in the future, after you got some capital accumulated, start your business from your parents or get your family involved somehow in your business if that's possible. Yeah, but I want to know what you guys have to say. That's it for this video.